Have you ever felt your legs giving out beneath you? Even when you're just walking to the kitchen, do you ever lie awake at night, wondering if the next fall could be the one that changes everything? For Evelyn, it wasn't a dramatic accident. It was a quiet moment in her garden, a small stumble that left her lying there, confused, scared, and suddenly unsure if she could get back up. She used to be strong, independent, a woman who prided herself on doing everything herself. But that day, something changed. If you've ever felt your legs wobble, if you've ever stood up too fast and felt the world tilt, if you're afraid of losing your freedom, your balance, your confidence, this isn't just a story about vitamins. It's a story about reclaiming the ground beneath your feet, a story about what no one tells you, until it's almost too late. But it doesn't have to be. It was just another Tuesday morning. The sun had barely stretched across the backyard, and Evelyn was doing what she loved most, watering her lilies. She'd always started her day like this, the soft hum of sprinklers, the earthy scent of wet soil, the quiet satisfaction of a garden growing under her care. But that morning, something felt off her right leg. It buckled, no warning, no pain, just a sudden hollow give, as if the ground vanished for a split second. And before she could even call out, she was on the ground, face pressed to the damp grass, hose still running, a sharp sting in her elbow, her heart pounding, not from the fall but from what it meant. She tried to sit up, her hands shaking. No one saw it. No one heard. She told herself it was nothing. Maybe she'd tripped. Maybe the soil was slick. But deep down, Evelyn knew. It wasn't the garden. It wasn't her shoes. It was her body. And for the first time in her 72 years, Evelyn felt fragile. She sat on the porch later that day, knees scraped, pride bruised. Then came the questions. What if no one had been home? What if next time it's worse? What if I can't get up? She didn't tell her daughter. She didn't want to worry her. But that night, lying awake, Evelyn Googled the words. Why do old people fall? Sudden leg weakness in elderly, vitamins for balance and strength, and what she found changed everything. Because the truth is, Evelyn wasn't alone. Each year, millions of seniors fall, not because they're clumsy, not because they're careless, but because their bodies quietly run low on the very nutrients that keep them grounded, stable, safe. And Evelyn was determined this fall would be her last. That single search began a journey, one that would lead her through forgotten vitamins, silent deficiencies, and the quiet power of rebuilding strength from within. It wasn't about fear anymore. It was about taking back control. You're still here, which means maybe your legs have felt weaker lately. Maybe there's been that moment, standing too fast, turning too quickly, and your body didn't respond the way it used to. Maybe you felt it too, that shift from confidence to caution. That's where Evelyn was, just a few days after the fall. She booked a checkup, more for peace of mind than anything else. But her doctor didn't brush it off. He asked questions, took her blood, ordered tests. And 2 days later, the results came in. Her vitamin D levels were dangerously low. Not just a little low, not let's keep an eye on it, but low enough to weaken muscle fibers, slow reaction time, and disrupt balance. The doctor looked at her gently and said, "You're not losing strength, you're just running empty." Because here's the thing about vitamin D, it's more than just sunshine and bones. It's the signal between your brain and your body, the fuel that tells your muscles to move, the invisible support that keeps your legs steady when you need them most. Without it, even the strongest person starts to stumble. Evelyn had no idea. She spent her days indoors, especially during winter. And even when she did go outside, sunscreen and age had already reduced her skin's ability to synthesize D from sunlight. What shocked her most wasn't just how important vitamin D was, it was how easily it could be fixed. Her doctor prescribed a daily dose, 800 IU to start. He suggested a morning walk, sleeves rolled up, 15 minutes a day. He pointed out salmon egg yolks, fortified cereals, simple changes, small habits. And within weeks, Evelyn felt something shift, not all at once, not dramatic. But one morning, she stepped out into her garden and didn't feel the ground as her enemy. She bent down to touch the soil and didn't worry if she could get back up. That moment, as sunlight warmed her arms, she whispered to herself, "This is what strength feels like from the inside out." She wasn't lifting weights. She wasn't running marathons. She was feeding her body what it quietly needed all along. And you might be just one supplement away from the same feeling. If you've ever felt that unexplainable fatigue, if your legs feel heavy, slow, unsure, start by checking your vitamin D, because sometimes power isn't built in gyms, it's rebuilt in the bloodstream. If you've experienced anything like Evelyn did, a small fall, a strange cramp, a moment of fear, let me know in the comments. Your story matters too. And it could be the beginning of something stronger, something steadier, something that's been waiting just beneath your skin. The real wake-up call didn't come in the doctor's office. It came 3 weeks later, on Evelyn's living room floor. She had bent down to pick up her grandson's toy car, and as she tried to stand up, her hips screamed. It wasn't sharp pain, it wasn't even sudden. It was more like her bones were arguing with gravity, and gravity was winning. She sat back on the couch, breathless, shaken, confused. Her daughter asked, "Mom, are you okay?" Evelyn forced a smile, but inside she wasn't. That night she replayed the moment over and over. Was she too stiff, too tired? Or was something deeper happening? The next appointment brought clarity, low calcium, and not just a little low. Her body was borrowing it from her bones to fuel basic movement. Her doctor explained it gently. Think of your bones as your internal scaffolding, strong, silent, always there. But if that scaffolding is stripped bare, even the smallest tasks start to feel like heavy lifting. Calcium wasn't just about preventing fractures. It was the quiet enabler behind every muscle contraction, every step, every rise from a chair. And in Evelyn's case, that enabler was disappearing. She remembered skipping milk for years, cutting back on cheese, brushing off those chalky supplements. Now she understood the cost. Her muscles were firing, but the frame beneath them was fragile, like trying to stand on a ladder with half the rungs missing. But here's the hopeful part: calcium can be restored. She added leafy greens to her plate, kale, bok choy, collard, swapped her afternoon snack for a small bowl of Greek yogurt. She found a plant-based calcium supplement that didn't upset her stomach. And she moved, not in big ways, just walking to the mailbox, standing on her toes as she brushed her teeth, a few gentle squats holding the kitchen counter. Little movements that told her body, I still need these bones, I'm not done with them yet. And slowly, Evelyn felt the shift. The stiffness in her hips eased, her legs began to trust themselves again, and most of all, her confidence returned. Because when you rebuild your foundation, everything above it stands taller. If you've been avoiding calcium, thinking you're too old or past the point, don't. Your bones are still listening. And they're waiting for you to give them what they've been missing. Sometimes, strength isn't about pushing harder, it's about supporting smarter. It started with a tingling, just a soft, strange buzz in her left foot. Evelyn brushed it off at first, thought maybe she sat too long or her shoes were too tight. But the feeling came back again and again. And then it spread up her calves, behind her knees, into her thighs. One morning, she stood at the sink and couldn't feel the floor. It was there, of course, but her body didn't register it. Her legs felt disconnected, like her brain and her muscles weren't speaking the same language. And in a way, they weren't. Her neurologist didn't take long to find the missing link. Vitamin B12, her levels were almost non-existent. And suddenly, everything made sense. The tingling, the numbness, the heavy legs, the tiny stumbles. The quiet panic rising behind her eyes. B12, he explained, is like the electrical wiring of the body. Without it, nerves go dark, muscles miss signals, balance falters. Reaction time slows. It wasn't just age, it wasn't weakness. It was a silent short circuit that could have been prevented. Evelyn felt a strange relief. This had a name, a cause, a solution. She began B12 injections that week. The doctor showed her foods she'd forgotten about: clams, liver, fortified cereals, tuna, eggs. She started simple. A scrambled egg in the morning, a bowl of lentil soup at lunch, a once-weekly injection. And within a month, the floor came back. That's how she described it. The floor came back. She could feel the carpet under her feet, the steps beneath her shoes, the steady strength of standing without doubt. It was emotional. Because it wasn't just her legs. It was her sense of self, coming back online. There's something terrifying about not trusting your own body, about wondering if each step is a gamble. But with B12, that terror can be lifted. If you felt numbness, strange pins and needles, legs that feel like they belong to someone else, don't ignore it. It's not just aging. It's not in your head. It could be B12, and getting it back might just bring back parts of you that you thought were lost. If this feels familiar, I'd love to hear your story. Because sometimes, sharing it is the first step to feeling grounded again. It always happened at night. Evelyn would be drifting off. The house quiet, the weight of the day melting away, and then, a jolt. A sharp, screaming cramp would seize her calf like a vice. She'd shoot up in bed, gasping, clutching her leg, massaging furiously, whispering through clenched teeth, "Not again, not again." Sometimes it was one leg, sometimes both, always sudden, always brutal, and always stealing her sleep. It wasn't just the pain, it was the fear of it returning. She began dreading bedtime, lying still, trying not to move too much, hoping her legs would behave, but her muscles had other plans. When she finally mentioned it to her doctor, he nodded knowingly. "Magnesium," he said. "You're probably running low." Evelyn blinked. Magnesium, she had never thought about it. No one talked about magnesium. But once he explained, it all fit. Magnesium is the silent regulator of muscle function. It tells muscles when to contract and when to let go. Without it, they clench and spasm, even when they're supposed to rest. That night, she started reading restless leg syndrome, night cramps, fatigue, all linked to magnesium deficiency. And not just in people who eat poorly. Even healthy eaters lose magnesium through stress, medications, and aging. Evelyn remembered the blood pressure pills, the antacids, the long months of worry after her fall, all of it, slowly draining her reserves. She made changes the next day: spinach at lunch, a handful of pumpkin seeds in the afternoon, a banana before bed. She bought a bottle of magnesium glycinate, gentler on the stomach, easier to absorb. She slipped it into her nightly routine, right beside her toothbrush, and within a week, the cramps stopped. Not reduced, not delayed. Gone. For the first time in months, she slept through the night, no jolts, no clenching, just peace. She woke up in tears, not from pain, but from the absence of it. She had forgotten what that felt like. And with sleep came energy, patience, laughter. Evelyn found herself humming again in the mornings, stretching at the window, smiling at the coffee pot. It's amazing what you can reclaim with just a little magnesium. If you've been battling cramps, if your nights are interrupted by sudden pain, don't just suffer through it. Your body is trying to speak. And sometimes all it's saying is, "I need help letting go." If this part of Evelyn's story speaks to you, you're not alone. And tonight could be the first night you sleep all the way through. It was a beautiful spring morning. Evelyn was stepping out of the car after visiting the farmer's market, arms full of fresh peaches and herbs. She took one step onto the curb and her knee buckled. Her grocery bag hit the ground. The peaches rolled away. Her hand slammed against the car door to catch herself. No fall, not this time. But the feeling was familiar and terrifying. Her legs had trembled, like they couldn't carry her weight for one more second. She stood there, frozen, her heart pounding. This wasn't about bones or cramps or nerve signals. It felt like her legs had forgotten how to listen. Her doctor wasn't surprised. "Potassium," he said. "That quick muscle control you need to balance, react, stay steady. Potassium runs that system." And Evelyn, like many others, was running low. She remembered the early warning signs, the morning calf cramps, the heaviness when standing too long, the stiffness after sitting, all whispers of a quiet deficiency. Potassium isn't just for athletes. It's the unsung hero behind smooth movement, fluid reaction balance. Without it, the messages between your brain and your muscles get scrambled. That's why legs tremble, why walking feels awkward, why quick adjustments, like stepping off a curb, become dangerous. Evelyn had never tracked her potassium. She thought bananas were enough. But one banana a week wasn't cutting it. Her doctor helped her build a new rhythm, baked sweet potatoes for dinner, spinach in her omelet, a handful of white beans tossed into salads, oranges in the afternoon instead of cookies. Even a baked potato, skin on, became a weekly staple. Within 2 weeks, she felt a shift. The trembling eased. She stood from her chair with more certainty. Her knees stopped wobbling when she turned corners. It was subtle but steady. And with that steadiness came something powerful: trust. Trust in her body, trust in each step, trust that the next curb wouldn't betray her. If your legs have felt shaky, if stairs make your knees uncertain, if your feet hesitate when they used to move without thinking, you might not need more willpower, you might just need more potassium. The smallest imbalance can throw your world off center, but the smallest correction can bring you back. She had done everything right. Vitamin D, check. Calcium, daily. Magnesium, added to her nightly routine. B12, monitored and restored. Potassium, balanced through every meal. And still, something wasn't clicking. Evelyn noticed it in her knees, not pain exactly, but tightness, a resistance when bending, a stiffness that settled after sitting, like her joints had forgotten how to flow. She mentioned it to her doctor during a routine checkup. He listened. Then asked, "Have you ever checked your vitamin K?" She blinked. Vitamin K, she hadn't even thought about it. Wasn't that the one about blood clotting? He smiled. It's also the one that tells calcium where to go and where not to. And suddenly, everything fell into place. All the calcium in the world meant nothing if it was getting lost. Without vitamin K, calcium can end up in the wrong places. Joints, arteries, soft tissues. That stiffness in her knees could have been calcium building up without the proper guide. Because vitamin K is the traffic controller. It takes all those nutrients she'd been working so hard to absorb and make sure they're actually helping her bones, not hurting her mobility. And it goes deeper than bones. Vitamin K plays a quiet but powerful role in keeping joints flexible and muscles coordinated. Studies show it reduces inflammation, supports neuromuscular control, and strengthens the structural network we rely on for every movement. Evelyn made a few changes. She added kale to her morning smoothie, cooked Swiss chard with garlic for dinner, picked up a jar of natto, fermented soybeans, rich in vitamin K2, and tried a spoonful every other day. She even swapped her sandwich lettuce for collard greens. It wasn't flashy. But within weeks, her knees responded. They bent with ease, the tightness melted. The stiffness after sitting gone. One morning, she knelt to pick weeds in her garden and stood back up without thinking. It caught her off guard. That moment, that movement, once impossible, now felt natural. She exhaled deeply, smiled into the sunlight, and whispered, "This is how I used to feel." If your joints feel locked, if your legs feel heavy even when your bones are strong, if you've been doing everything right and still feel off, consider the missing link. Vitamin K doesn't shout. But when it's absent, everything else struggles. When it's present, the entire system flows. It's not about adding more. It's about guiding what you already have to where it belongs. It was the strangest thing. Evelyn had followed every step, every supplement, every green, leafy bite. Her balance had improved. Her knees no longer ached. The cramps were gone. Her garden walks had returned. But still, she felt tired, not sleepy, not exhausted, just low on fuel. Her legs felt heavier by afternoon. Climbing stairs left her winded. A short trip to the store made her want to sit down the moment she got home. It didn't make sense until her new nutritionist asked a single question. "How's your vitamin B6? Another letter, another missing piece. B6, she explained, was essential for oxygen transport. Without it, red blood cells can't do their job, carrying oxygen to muscles, fueling every step. Without it, even healthy muscles feel sluggish. And Evelyn, her B6 levels were flat. Suddenly, it all added up. That quiet fatigue, the stiffness after walks, the heavy-legged feeling that didn't match her effort. She wasn't lazy. She was low on oxygen. Because B6 doesn't just energize, it connects. It supports nerve communication, muscle repair, protein absorption. It's the unseen ally behind strength and endurance. And in Evelyn's case, it was the reason her legs still felt one step behind her will. She changed her breakfast. Salmon instead of toast. Chickpeas tossed into salads. A small banana between meals. She swapped crackers for a handful of pistachios and began taking a modest B6 supplement, just enough to fill the gaps. 2 weeks later, the difference was unmistakable. She climbed the stairs without stopping. She walked to the mailbox and kept walking. Her legs felt like hers again, not just present, but powered. She laughed more, slept deeper, moved brighter. Because when your muscles are finally getting oxygen, they don't just work, they wake up. If you felt unusually tired, if your legs run out of steam before your heart does, if you're doing everything right and still feel drained, look at B6, it might be the spark your body's been missing. Sometimes, the path to energy isn't longer naps, it's better nourishment. And sometimes, feeling alive again is just one breakfast away. The body remembers even when the mind forgets. Evelyn was standing in the kitchen, stirring a pot of soup, sunlight spilling through the window. She turned to grab a spoon and paused. Something had changed, not in her knees, not in her feet, but in her posture. She was standing taller, not slouched, not cautious, but grounded, centered, balanced. She hadn't even noticed the shift. It had crept in, quietly with every new habit, every added vitamin, every extra step. Her daughter walked in and said, "You look different, Mom." Evelyn smiled, surprised. "Do I?" She hadn't changed her hair or her clothes, but something inside her had returned to the surface. Strength, not the kind that lifts weights. The kind that lifts life. The kind that lets you walk across a crowded room without scanning the floor. The kind that lets you stand in the garden without worrying who'll pick you up if you fall. The kind that whispers, "I've got you," every time you rise from a chair. It wasn't just physical, it was emotional. Because when you don't trust your legs, your world gets smaller. You say no to invitations, you avoid stairs, crowds, unfamiliar places. But when you rebuild that trust, everything opens. Grocery trips become adventures, walks become therapy. Hugs last longer because you're not rushing to sit down. That's the gift Evelyn found, not in a gym, but in a grocery store aisle, a supplement bottle, a quiet morning routine. One by one, the vitamins work together, each playing its part, each restoring a thread in the fabric of her confidence. And over time, those threads wove something powerful: freedom. If you're listening to this wondering if it's too late, it's not. If you're thinking you've tried everything, you haven't tried this way, not with the right knowledge, not with the full map. Start with one step, one habit, one breakfast. Let your body remember, because somewhere inside you strength is waiting. And when it returns, you won't just move better, you'll live louder. The wind was gentle that afternoon. Evelyn sat on her porch, a warm cup of tea in her hands, watching the breeze dance through the trees. Her legs were still. Not twitching, not aching, not restless, just steady. It had been 6 months. 6 months since that first fall in the garden. 6 months since she whispered to herself, "This can't be the beginning of the end." And now, here she was, she could walk to the store without needing a break. She could kneel in the garden and stand up without a second thought. She could laugh, lift her grandson, dance a little in the kitchen when her favorite song played. She was still 72. Still aging, but she was no longer shrinking inside her world. Because the truth she had uncovered was simple: leg strength isn't just about muscles. It's about nutrients, nerve health, blood flow, bone density, cellular energy. It's about giving your body the tools to do what it's always wanted to do: move, thrive, protect you. Each vitamin played its part. D for power, calcium for foundation, B12 for nerve clarity, magnesium for calm movement, potassium for control, K for guidance, B6 for oxygen and endurance. Together, they rebuilt what Evelyn thought was lost, not just her balance, her freedom. She stood that evening, barefoot on the porch wood, letting the sunset wrap around her, and whispered, "Thank you." To herself, to her body, to the quiet strength she had nurtured back to life. And now, it's your turn. You don't have to wait for a fall to begin this journey. You don't have to live with hesitation or hide your fear behind polite smiles. Start with 1. Check your levels, open your kitchen. Let food become medicine. Let routine become revival. Let today be the day you say, I'm coming back. Because your legs don't just carry you, they carry your life. And they deserve to move freely, fiercely, fully, just like you do.